Okay, here we go. One of Pearl's ideas: go in and look for an imaginary creature that grants wishes. Chapter 13, Cobblestone. This was the second time Pearl had been inside the identification room. During the first visit, Mr. Tabby had examined the dragon hatchling. Then he had set the wounded creature onto a conveyor belt, which then carried the hatchling away to surgery. The wide belt ran from the examination table through a large hole in the wall. Had Mr. Tabby put the leprechaun on the conveyor belt? It made sense. Pearl peered into the hole. It was dark in there. She reached her hand inside and felt the sides of tunnel, but nothing more. So she climbed onto the belt and sat with her legs crisscross applesauce. After tucking the hem of her lab coat under her bottom so that it wouldn't get caught on anything, she pushed the conveyor belt's button. A humming sound arose like a trapped housefly, and the belt began to move. And for a brief moment, Pearl second-guessed herself and almost jumped off. But then, what would she do? The leprechaun seemed the best way to fix things without Mr. Tabby or Dr. Wu finding out. As Pearl entered the tunnel, she ducked her head and wrapped her arms around her knees. She remembered the tunnel of love ride she had taken at the Milkdale Country Fair last summer, but instead of sitting on a conveyor belt, she had sat in a little heart-shaped boat. It was dark inside the tunnel and cold. The belt moved slowly deeper into the blackness, and then it turned to the right, and then the left. And a few moments later, rays of light greeted her as she emerged into another room. This room had nothing in it except for a chalkboard, upon which someone had written in white chalk: Patient, Sasquatch. Location, 3rd floor. Forest suite. Condition, foot fungus. Patient, lake monster. Location, Button Lake. Condition, amnesia. Amnesia? Pearl thought. She had heard that term before. A person who has amnesia is unable to remember things, like who or he or she is or where they had come from. But she had never heard of an animal having amnesia. And then she found what she was looking for. Patient, leprechaun. Location, 1st floor, steam room. Condition, head cold. Pearl figured that because the conveyor belt hadn't traveled uphill, she was still probably on the 1st floor. After scooting off the belt, she opened the door and peered into the hallway. Directly across the door was labeled ointment room. The next door was labeled parasite removal room. The steam room was the 3rd door down, and as she tiptoed up to it, she tried to remember exactly what Mr. Tabby had said. If you take a leprechaun's gold, he will grant you a wish. How difficult could it be? Leprechauns were small, so they couldn't really put up much of a fight. Could they? Slowly, she cracked open the door of the steam room and peeked inside. A very small figure sat on top of a table. He was about the size of a garden gnome statue that Mrs. Fruit, the oldest person in Buttonville, kept all over her front yard. His leather apron overflowed with tools of all shapes and sizes. His white shirt sleeves were rolled up, his black hair tied into the back of a knot. A humidifier hummed in the corner, spraying menthol-scented steam into the air. Wow, Pearl thought. It's a real, living, breathing leprechaun, a very small person. And then she remembered that it wasn't a person at all. He was a fairy. He blew his nose into a tissue, and then wadded the tissue and dropped it onto the floor, where there were dozens more. Pearl caught a quick glimpse of his profile as he grabbed another tissue. His nose was red and glistening. "Cobblestone be all snuffly," he grumbled. "Sniffly, snuffly." Pearl took a quick breath. There it was, a rusty coffee can right next to the leprechaun, and something shimmered from within. Gold. Pearl dashed into the room. Ugh! She groaned as she tried to snatch the can, which was surprisingly heavy. The coins clinked and glimmered, and dust rose into the air. The leprechaun spun around, his eyes wide with surprise. "Cobblestone's gold," he said, pointing to the can. His face turned as red as his swollen nose. "Why you steal from Cobblestone?" "I'm not stealing," Pearl said. "I'm borrowing." "Then return it to Cobblestone." He got to his feet. Gold dust specks on his black beard and black boots. Pearl was confused. "Is your name Cobblestone? Or are you talking about someone else?" "Cobblestone stand before you." He held out his arms. "Now give Cobblestone his treasure." Pearl stepped away, hugging the can to her chest. It was as heavy as an armful of bricks. She wasn't sure how long she could actually hold it. "I will give it back to you if you grant me one wish." Achoo! The leprechaun sneezed, and a little cloud of golden dust shot out of his nose. "What be the name of the thief who steals from Cobblestone?" Pearl didn't like being called a thief, but she was holding something that didn't belong to her. "My name is Pearl." "Pearl?" He furrowed his brow. "Pearl be a fairy name. You be a strange-looking fairy. Where be your wings?" "I'm not a fairy. I'm just a regular human girl." "Human?" The word hissed out. "Cobblestone don't like human." "You like Dr. Wu, don't you? She's a human." "Dr. Wu never tried to steal from Cobblestone." "I only did it because you're supposed to grant me a wish if I get your gold. One wish would take care of everything." Pearl chewed on her lower lip as she noticed the tools hanging from the leprechaun's apron. Some looked really, really sharp. What if he got mad and tried to poke her? He was on level 3 on the danger scale, after all, and not fond of human beings. "My friend's in trouble. I need a wish so that I can set him free." "Cobblestone has no wishes. His magic be clogged with sniffles and snot." He blew his nose into the tissue. Pearl remembered Mr. Tabby's warning. Leprechauns are notorious tricksters, and getting a wish granted is nearly impossible. It is almost always ending badly for the human. Was the leprechaun lying about his magic? Was he trying to trick her? "Then I guess you don't want your gold. I'll just be leaving. There's a nice bank in town where I can deposit it." She lifted her foot, preparing to take a step. "Wait!" He rubbed his red nose. "Cobblestone has no magic, but Cobblestone will trade instead." He pointed to her feet. "Your human shoes be hideous. Cobblestone make you a pair of leprechaun shoes if you return Cobblestone's gold." A pair of leprechaun shoes? The little guy smiled sweetly. "Would Pearl, the regular girl, like a pair of dancing shoes made from lightning bug wings, or a pair of running shoes made from the wind? How about a pair of slippers made from spun clouds?" Spun clouds? Nothing in the dollar store was made from spun clouds. "Cobblestone be the best cobbler in all of imaginary world. He can make shoes from anything. You be the envy of all your friends." Her friends. Pearl looked away for a moment. She had gotten her only friend trapped on an island with a lake monster, and now she was thinking about shoes? "I don't need any shoes." She rattled the can. "I need a wish. Are you going to grant me a wish, or am I going to use this gold to buy myself a chewing gum factory?" He folded his arms. "What be your wish?" Pearl smiled with satisfaction. Now they were getting somewhere. "My friend Ben is stuck on an island because a lake monster took him there and won't let him go. I want you to grant me a wish to get Ben off the island without Dr. Wu or Mr. Tabby finding out."
"A lake monster, you say?"
Achoo! He sneezed, and this time gold dust shot out of his ears.
"Lake monster have tiny fish brains. They be easy to trick. Take cobblestone to lake monster."
Pearl knew it was wrong to take an imaginary creature out of the hospital. When the Sasquatch had escaped, Mr. Tabby had said that the imaginary creatures were not allowed in the known world. But the lake monster was living in the lake, so it must be safe out there in the hospital grounds. Pearl simply had to keep the leprechaun from going beyond the wrought iron fence into the town of Buttonville. If a leprechaun was spotted running around, magazines and television reporters would show up, and Dr. Wu's Hospital for Imaginary Creatures would have to be discovered, no doubt about it. "You must follow me," she told him with a stern look. "Do not go anywhere else." He nodded. "Everything is going to be okay," Pearl told herself as she walked back up the hall, the gold's weight making her footsteps wobbly. A wish would be granted, a boy set free. She didn't have to turn around to know the leprechaun was following, because his high-heeled boots made little clinking and clanking sounds. After they had both climbed over the conveyor belt, Pearl pushed the button. The belt hummed and began its return journey. Pearl ducked her head as she entered the dark tunnel. There was still no sign of Mr. Tabby. As Pearl and Cobblestone made their way from the identification room through the lobby, Pearl unbolted the half-opened hospital door. Unfortunately, Mrs. Mulberry and Victoria were still waiting behind the gates. Are they going to sit there all day? Didn't they have anything better to do? The leprechaun peeked around Pearl's knee.
"Humans,"
he grumbled as he spied the pair.
"Cobblestone don't like humans."
"There are good humans and there are bad humans," Pearl said. "And those are definitely bad humans." How could she sneak the leprechaun past the mulberries? "Stay behind me," she told them. Then, like a crab, she walked sideways along the front of the building, shielding the leprechaun from view. Victoria never looked up from her book, but Mrs. Mulberry continued to spy through her binoculars. "Yoo-hoo! I see you, Pearl Petal, and I see..." Mrs. Mulberry fell. Duke. Stop. Hey, that's it. Okay, stop. Come here. Now come say hi to everybody. Come here. Say, "I'm the loud dog. Here I am, my loud dog." Duke, do you want to sit and listen to the rest of the story? Yes, Mommy. Okay, you gotta be quiet. Okay? You be quiet? Be quiet? Good boy. You sit. Sit. "Yoo-hoo! I see you, Pearl Petal, and I see..." Mrs. Mulberry fell silent. Pearl moved as quickly as she could. Once they had turned the corner, they were out of sight, and she led the way down the path that she and Ben had trampled earlier. The leprechaun's tools clanked and clinked as he followed.
"Perhaps you want a pair of princess shoes made from dwarf crystals. They sparkle and be pink."
"Princess shoes?" Ugh. She rolled her eyes. "Why would I want sparkly pink princess shoes?"
"She who wears princess shoes be destined to meet Prince."
A prince? The gold weight pulled on Pearl's arms. A real prince? There were no princes in Buttonville, unless you counted Harvey Dill, who had been crowned Prince of Buttons in last year's Founder Day parade. He got to wear a button-covered cloak and a plastic crown from the dollar store.
"Of course a real prince. Results be guaranteed in 72 hours.
Hold on a minute. Pearl stopped walking and looked down at the leprechaun. "Are you saying that if I wear a pair of shoes called princess shoes, I will meet a real prince in..." She counted the hours in her head. "In 3 days?" He nodded. While Pearl had no desire to wear sparkly shoes, the result did sound interesting. Would the prince arrive in Buttonville on a horse? Would he fly in on a private jet? Maybe he would spend a lot of money at the dollar store. That would be great.
Never mind rescuing the boy named Ben.
The leprechaun held out his hands.
Give Cobblestone the gold, and you will have a pair of princess shoes.
A breeze blew across Pearl's face. She imagined a front-page photo in the Buttonville Gazette of her and her prince, whatever his name was. The headline wouldn't be about her being a troublemaker. Well, she wiggled her toes against the dollar store flip-flops. Well, help! Ben's voice shot through the air. See you tomorrow.